I was talking to a friend this morning, and we were just talking about how the challenge of life, the goal of life, and really, to me, a way to awaken to life and embrace it in all of its beauty and totality, brutality and love, is to meet life at what life is giving us. That's it. There's no other option, actually. The denial of reality creates additional suffering. So I just think you have to meet life on life's terms. And that can be from a Buddhist perspective, that's a way to wake up to what life really is and start living now. And I was talking to my mom, I mentioned this last week, or maybe I didn't, but when we had to evacuate, my mom is 90, and she said it reminded her of World War II. Did I mention this? Mm-hmm. And so sorry if I'm being redundant, but it reminded her of World War II and bombs going off. She was only like 6 around that time, but she remembered having to run and evacuate. And when I got them in the car and we were driving, she said, it reminds me so much of that time. And she said, but I have to say, there is something really exciting about being alive through it all. And I was like, what an amazing perspective for a 90-year young person it's kind of bookended. Her life is being bookended by really intense events. And I was talking to some of Eric's class last night. They were out on break, and I was just telling them about, I'm so glad that we're all here together to be experiencing it together, to be a witness of life right now. And that is exciting, that we're here collectively to talk about it, create art around it, work through it, share, be on the right side of justice and sovereignty and truth and fighting for things that matter. That's an exciting time. Then I thought, okay, I went back and watched The Seventh Seal, which I think I mentioned to Prince. Yeah, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. And when you revisit that movie, it's about many things. It was done in 1957. It's Ingmar Bergman's film about a number of things about death, ultimately. And so it had a different resonance for me, but it's an amazing movie. It's also quite funny. But I thought, oh my gosh. So it's one of the sub-stories is this young girl, of course, is being accused of witchcraft and sorcery during the medieval times. It was during the bubonic plague, the Black Death. So of course she was demonized, that it was her fault, the witch, that created the plague. So in the movie, they decide to crucify her and then burn her at the stake. And I started thinking, well, holy hell, not much has changed. We are living in what I know, like, our cohort nowadays, we think we're so cool and enlightened. We're living in the Enlightenment period. I don't know what they call it. Big tech calls it whatever. The best time to be alive. And I guess there are privileges of being alive right now because, we get to get on a plane, some of us, and you get to travel somewhere else. And, there are diseases that have been eradicated that used to take millions of people out. It's the lowest, less people are dying of starvation, although at any other time in the history of planet Earth, although that could be eradicated completely if billionaires would just put their money to it. But don't get me started. I'm going to stay apolitical tonight. Not really. But I started thinking, I was like, oh my God. So we think human beings think we're living in such a cool time. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. When they had that kind of a belief system in the Middle Ages, and then I hear that Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about Jewish laser lights created the fires here, but they also created the hurricanes that were, caused by the Democrats that caused the hurricanes in Florida. I thought, okay, whether that's something she really believes in or she just says it to be provocative, it's still the end result. It's demonizing the other, scapegoating the other. And I was like, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. For me, that's not depressing at all. Life, the wheel of the clock of time moves so slowly. And I guess I just find that to be, for me, comforting, because we can get so stuck in the minutia of the intensity of life right now that for me, when I pull back and I'm looking at like life on terra firma, it's been going on like this forever. And I don't know, for me, I find some solace in it's going to be okay, whatever happens. So I don't know if that gives you some assistance in working through all the feelings that come up. For me, the benediction for myself is to not be nihilistic about any of it, because that's dangerous. That's what social media wants us to do. And I just keep remembering about that Joseph Campbell quote, and he says, participate joyfully in the sorrows of life. That's the beauty and the burden of being alive on planet Earth. And that's a choice. We're doing that all the time. You're doing that artfully and purposefully. You're doing that creatively, skillfully. You know, that's why I love this school so much and creating with people. And it really, to me, keeps me alive and navigating toward what's important. So I just want to, you know, keep encouraging us to not be nihilistic about it. Keep leaning toward art is really important. It really is during times like these.